You know who are the biggest hypocrites in US politics? It's the Democratic Party, because they claim to be for the little guy when they just support big capital just like the Republicans do. And one of these individuals has particularly gotten under my skin because his hypocrisy is highly related to the COVID-19 pandemic, where the Democrats are giving us the veneer that they're the ones that are going to save American people from COVID, where the Republicans just didn't care, when really they both just serve the same interests of big capital. Now, Democrats will talk a big game about fighting COVID, but really I think a lot of them just want to profit off of it. This is Tom Malinowski. He was born in Poland and quote-unquote fled to America when he was a child in 1965. So naturally children somehow understand international politics and economics, so he was justified in doing so. Real tough on the communist kind of guy. With that kind of background, he's got a pretty decent U.S. government resume. Vice Chairman of the U.S. Foreign Affairs Committee, member of the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, and currently the U.S. House of Representatives from New Jersey. His website says, "I served our country under 2 presidents, defending the rights of workers and women, cracking down on global corruption, and standing up to dictators like Putin and Kim Jong-un." Now, as largely laughable as that is that any U.S. politician stands for workers and women, what really gets me is the hypocrisy of this particular individual who decided to use his office to not only get away with crime, so to speak, get himself a reduced penalty for breaking the law, but then repeatedly break the law when it comes to trading stocks and the COVID pandemic. Malinowski, on August 1st of 2020, Hopewell, Mercer County, New Jersey, was stopped by police for speeding while his license was suspended. Using the magic of political power, a prosecutor agreed to reduce the suspended license charge to failure to provide documents, a $150 fine, because Tom Malinowski was in the process of moving at that time and apparently didn't receive a letter about the notification of suspension. Now, in New Jersey, driving with a suspended license is actually a pretty big deal. You can get up to an additional 6 months of your license suspended when you get it back. You can also pay some pretty heavy fines. But somehow the prosecutor just found a way to drop it down to about $150, which is almost literally nothing to a man who has millions of dollars in assets. But this isn't the only time that he's used his position in government to his own benefit, particularly financially. What's really unethical is using your government position to make money off the COVID-19 pandemic. He's a complete hypocrite, as he lambasted other politicians for trying to make money off the crisis. Yet, he bought and sold as much as $1 million of stock in medical and tech companies that had a stake in the virus response. That's right, as the economy was tanking as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, he saw it as an opportunity to make a lot of money. So as a lot of these companies were going under, hemorrhaging jobs, leaving a lot of people unemployed, etc., he made a hell of a lot of money off of it. And one of the ways he did so was by short selling stock and then buying up some companies when their stock price was virtually nothing because of the devastation of COVID-19. Democrats always act like they're the ones to save people from the big business party Republicans, when they're really just part of the same collection of interests. What makes matters worse is that not only did he profit off of the COVID pandemic, he failed to report to the government that he was making money off of it, as he's obligated to by law. Representative Malinowski is accused of failing to disclose stock transactions made in 2019 and 2020 as required by law. On October 21st, 2021, the Ethics Committee published the Office of Congressional Ethics Report and findings of the members' response stating that Tom Malinowski did engage in such conduct. If that wasn't bad enough, he continued to trade individual stocks after already being found in violation of the Stocks Act. He didn't report those trades until after the deadline to do so, another illegal move under the Stocks Act. He traded about $671,000 in stocks, according to media reports. Now, Only after multiple ethics complaints did he decide to actually do something. He took the hands-off approach. He had his financial advisor take all of his assets and place them in a blind trust, where theoretically, according to the law and how capital markets work, he has nothing to do with the money that is being made. But it took a long time for him to get to that point. It took multiple ethics complaints for him to finally get around to doing the thing that he probably should have been doing from the beginning. Malinowski has claimed that he had no control over how his investment advisor handled his securities accounts. But with the blind trust, he didn't even know what his financial assets were. Now, he is running for re-election in New Jersey, and if you're considering voting for him, I think you should keep these kinds of unethical actions in mind, that this is the kind of thing that he does. But I would also like to point out that this is not just him, but a systemic problem within the Democrats in general. They are not the saviors of working people and women. They serve big capital just as the Republican Party does, and they should be treated with as much suspicion. And it's important to point out hypocrites like this man, because they adequately demonstrate how very clearly they're working for the same set of interests. So if you're in New Jersey and you're considering voting for him, please take this into consideration.